Hi, thanks for stopping by. I'm coming up on my 27th anniversary of when I finally said, no more, it's over, the cycle has ended. I'm not putting up with abuse in my life. I need my children and myself to be safe. And I went to a women's shelter where I was living in Pennsylvania at the time. And we had weekly support groups, as many wonderful places do for survivors. And I remember, like it was yesterday, sitting there wondering if I really had been abused or if it was just in my mind. Did I really deserve the support of these people? And thinking about that reminded me of a story that we would tell at least once a month. So it's story time today. And the story goes like this. The people had gathered around the table to support each other. Half-empty coffee cups and teacups and soda cups were scattered about. Some donuts had been eaten, some one or two nibbles taken out, and everyone was just sitting quietly. And one young woman looked nervous, and she raised her hand to speak, and the facilitator called on her, and she said, I don't know if I really belong here. I mean, it's not like he ever really did anything. I mean, he wouldn't let me see my friends, and he would call me names, but he never struck me. And the facilitator smiled and said, no, you belong. And with that, she decided it was our icebreaker. And so we'd go around the table, and the next woman spoke, and she said, well, I don't really know if it was abuse. I mean, he slapped me once or twice across the face. That was really about it. The facilitator nodded and smiled and said, no, that's a form of abuse. You belong here. Welcome. And she nodded to the next participant, and he spoke. And he said, I don't know. I don't know if it's really abuse. I mean, sometimes we roughhouse, and maybe it just gets out of hand, and my partner punched me a few times, and once I had to go to the hospital because, you can still see the scars here. And the facilitator smiled and said, no, that is definitely abuse, and you belong here, and nodded to the next. The next person said, they did beat me, but it wasn't every day. It wasn't even every week. I mean, usually just when my partner got drunk. Is that really abuse? The facilitator nodded and said, yes, you belong here. Welcome. And nodded to the next. And the next person said, they did beat me a lot, and they wouldn't let me go out and told me what I had to wear, but it was kind of a lifestyle, it wasn't, I don't know. I stayed, so was it really abuse? Yes, that's a form of abuse. You belong here. Welcome. And nodded to the next. Well, my partner beat me, and once I fell down the stairs and I broke my arm. That was fun to try to explain at the hospital, but it only happened that one time, that I fell. They did hit me a lot. Is that really abuse? Oh, yes. Yes, said the facilitator, that's abuse. Welcome. And looked at the next. And the next person said, okay, so it started with them just controlling me, and sometimes they try to choke me. But once they picked up a knife and they were slashing it through the air, and it caught me, and it hit me on the back of my hand as I was trying to defend myself. I needed some stitches. The facilitator looked at them and said, oh, yes, that is definitely abuse, and you definitely belong here. Welcome. Nodded to the next person. I said, My abuser was a hunter, and he was really in love with his guns. And one day, I walked in while they were cleaning he was cleaning his handguns, and he got angry at me, and he picked up the gun, and I think he thought it was empty. I really did think he thought it was empty, but it fired, and I still have a bullet lodged in my shoulder. They can't take it out. Do I belong here? Yes. Yes, you belong here. And finally, there was one last person. She was an older woman, probably close to where I am in age now. And she looked around the room, and she cast her eyes down, and she mumbled, almost inaudibly, "Well, I'm alive." And the point of this story is that abuse comes in so many forms. It's not a one single act or a one-size-fits-all. Domestic violence comes under many guises. It could even be something that seems as simple as not letting you drive or tickling you when you've asked them to stop repeatedly. We shouldn't be comparing or looking for crib notes from somebody else's experience. If you've been abused, you know it. And you belong in a support group. And you belong to have the life you've always wanted to live. And I hope that someone listening to this realizes that if it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it is a duck, and you've been abused. And there are people, and there are so many of us out there that are willing to reach to you and say, please, how can I help you on your healing journey? See you next time.